Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And just to give you a warning before we do get into today's stories, this is a compilation based around wedding-based drama, so if that's your thing, absolutely get involved, but if it's not, please feel free to go to another video. Absolutely up to you. Just want to give you that warning up front. Thank you so much love to you. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from Wedding Bridesmaid, who says, am I the a-hole for refusing to be a bridesmaid months before the wedding? I, 18 female, was asked back in September by my cousin's fiance to be a bridesmaid to their wedding, which is in March. I agreed, but let her know in advance that I'd lost my job back in August due to college schedules, and that I hadn't been able to find a new one for said reason. She assured me the prices were going to be very comfortable for me, and that she would have it in consideration, but to please grant her the honor. She also showed me the infinity dresses she wanted from Amazon, $35. I agreed, but then last week she came up with a group chat, where she stated the prices, which are these: bridesmaids costs, infinity dress $100, pink Vans $80, bachelorette Airbnb $100, makeup $130, hair $60, matching jewelry $30. Apparently she found the same dress at a local boutique at a slightly higher price. When I asked about the prices, she told me to just ask someone to lend me the money. We have until Tuesday, January 10th to pay, and that it wasn't a big deal. I honestly don't have the money or anyone whatsoever to lend me that amount, so I just told her I couldn't afford it. I know it's a little late to find another bridesmaid, but I just can't risk spending money on a wedding that isn't mine, especially when I have rent and other bills to pay. I also think I've been uninvited, so am I the a-hole? Now for me in this one, we've covered a lot of them where brides have expected people to buy their bridesmaids dresses, etc., and I myself might be confused on wedding etiquette, and it might be different all over the place, obviously, because I've always been under the impression, and weddings that I've been to, is that you pay for your bridesmaids' dresses yourself. You don't expect them to pay for them. And so for me in this one, I think you've just dodged a bullet. And you didn't express that you didn't want to get the dress, you just couldn't afford it, which is an absolutely valid reason. And when you told her, she told you to lend the money off of someone. Holy crap. Absolutely not the a-hole to me. Aggravating Quantity says, my parents paid $1,500 for me to be in my cousin's wedding when I was like 14, over 20 years ago. So stupid. I was in my sister's wedding party in 2019. She ordered really nice infinity dresses for $35 off of Etsy and paid for everyone's hair, and we did all our own makeup. I spent maybe $80 getting shoes and a stick-on bra. OP responded saying that is literally how she told me it would be. See, if she would have told me it would be $500 back in September, I would have said yes, and with time, I would have gathered enough money to buy everything. But I've been preparing for a $35 dress and around $100 for shoes and accessories. Not for $500 with less than a week's notice. It's just so different on so many levels. Know It More says, yeah, all wedding party stuff should be part of the wedding expenses. It's a terrible new trend where you invite someone to be in your wedding party and expect them to pay for the privilege, especially if you want hair and makeup done a particular way. OP responds saying, I wouldn't have an issue paying the $500 if she would have told me back in September. When she asked me to be her bridesmaid, I was just not given enough time to get my expenses organized enough to pay that amount of money. I know I'm not entitled to get things for free, so I would have loved to pay to participate, just not at such short notice. Which is what makes me sad at a certain level. I don't have the privilege of asking my parents or other family members to pay for me because they are the same or even worse than me economically. Pickett says, not the a-hole. I didn't know until now that bridesmaids were expected to pay. It's the couple's decision whether to add these people to the ceremony. They shouldn't expect to foist significant extra expense on you so late in the process. If they can't find a substitute bridesmaid at the last minute, that's bad, but they had months to get this together, and they had been bad at communication and consultation. OP says they are not, but she's going crazy in budget, so they have to cut a few things off. Hence why we're expected to be paying for everything, so they don't have to. OP also added another comment in that thread which says, I only know this because of my cousin. He's complaining about the amount of money going into the wedding. Apparently it's over $30,000 in US. Note Mall says not the a-hole, and when the hell did the trend start to ask people to pay for their own stuff when in a wedding party? I see it more and more now. I was my brother's best man. We went to a store and got suits and shoes. He paid. You want a specific dress, makeup, hair, etc.? That's part of the wedding expense. OP responds and says, here it's more like a 50-50 deal. Like bridesmaids pays for dresses and shoes, but usually they just buy any dress in a specific color, while the bride, groom and family pays for the makeup, hair, etc. Someone said to OP, what you've been quoted are actually wicked low prices for things. These are reasonable estimates for bridesmaids purchases. OP responded and said, I replied to this more for context reasons than to defend myself. It's different currencies. I didn't want to discuss this, but I put the price in US dollars, but my rent is approximately 100 USD. And that's without electricity and water, internet and phone bills, and I get monthly scholarship of more or less $200. I only have like $20 or $30 left every month. $300 to $500 in my currency. $500 for me is around $9,650. So then OP did come back in to update the post, which says, thank you for all the comments and point of views in the last post. I want to clarify that although the bride and I are not family, I've always been closer with her than with my cousin. I wanted to give an update on how everything turned out since we had until today to pay the $500. Yesterday, she sent a message to the wedding group chat saying that she would be changing bridesmaids and calling off the bachelorette party since only 1 out of 16 people assisting the bachelorette party and 1 out of 4 bridesmaids had paid. 2 and myself bailed for the pricing. She asked me again saying that the dresses were actually $35, but she was running out of funds for the bachelorette and decided that it was the best way to pay for it. The plans changed. We pay the $35 personally to the seller, and accessories are optional and our choice. I advised her to give our refunds to the people who paid because it isn't right to use other people's money like that, and she did. At this point, I'm only going as a bridesmaid for support, and even though I hate to say it, I felt bad that she ended up by herself, so I agreed. Her guests are currently starting to cancel since she also tried to charge them in advance for food and drinks. I'm currently trying to help her do things right and accept that she needs to accommodate according to her budget. And yes, we're on good terms, I think. Trying to be a good friend right now. Again, thank you all. People were questioning on OP and why did she change her mind. OP said she wasn't so willing at first, but me and my family, we're the groom's family, convinced her to do this because it was all starting to fall apart. No one wants to pay to go to a wedding. They're guests for a reason. People were saying, well, where's the groom in this? OP responds saying, well, he walked out in every wedding planning decision that doesn't directly involve him in it, to avoid confrontations with his fiancée. So he's basically not involved in any of it, he's just the wallet. A very thin one right now because of how much he's actually spent. He's very hands-off in these decisions, he wants to avoid any disagreement with her. He did offer to pay the $500 for me behind her back because I'm the only female cousin in the family, but I declined, politely. But other than that, he's not interested in getting involved in the matter. The groom is 22, but he's got a high-paying job, just not high enough for her. Someone questioned and said, why are they getting married? OP responds saying, oh, we know they're getting married for the wrong reasons, but our religious families would rather them marry than have them sin. If you know, you know. They've been together for 2 years, and he said she had never done anything like it. They mostly want to get married for carnal reasons. And someone said to OP, what is this about paying? OP responded, she asked them to pay for the plate. It was like $15 per plate, I think. Someone must have said, was she expecting the gift? And OP responded, laughing and saying, you're funny to think she didn't expect the gift. And there was some extra info from OP about why she was doing this as a favor, which says, honestly, now it's more like a favor. Most of the wedding party has bailed, so I agreed to do it. Now she's in the process of replacing the other 3 bridesmaids who quit, and yes, the one who paid also pulled out last minute. I wouldn't necessarily say a good person. Yes, I feel bad for her and I'm a friend, but it's mostly so other people don't get scammed. She can afford a wedding, just not the one she was planning. She was going over 30k USD in budget when she can only spend about 15k. So not only was she going to take money from other people, but she was going to take out a huge loan when she doesn't even have a car or a house for herself, which should have been a priority. So did I get this right in that she was charging her friends $100 for the dresses, but they were actually $35 and was going to use the money for other stuff at the wedding? What the hell? It's an absolute disaster waiting to happen, this whole wedding. Groom stepping back and because he doesn't want any confrontation to do with it. Boy oh boy. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from Made Her Repay the Dress, who says, am I the arsehole for ruining my kid's life after she ruined a dress? X31 and I, male 32, had C, female 16, way too young. We're friendly co-parents. One big rule we share is if our daughter breaks something, she pays for it. Now sis, 27 and I are the only grandkids. Aunt never married. Instead, she worked with grandma and grandpa at their seamstress store and took it over when they retired. Sis's girlfriend, 29, proposed last year. Grandpa offered to make future SIL a custom suit, which she was over the moon about. Grandma had me ask Sis what her dream dress was and record the convo. Sis, thinking it was just between us, told me in great detail what her dream dress was, though said it was way too expensive, so she would get something much cheaper. Well, a few months later, Grandma surprised Sis with her dream wedding dress. It fit perfectly and everyone cried. Sadly, Grandma recently passed away, which hit us all hard. Sis was devastated but decided that the dress meant Grandma would still be there with us at the wedding. The issue comes in with C. She's very large, much larger than Sis. 3 days ago, we decided to go visit Sis and see how she was doing. It was great, but then C asked if she could try on the dress. C politely said no. C made a face but dropped it. Later, we decided to go grab dinner. Sis and I went to pick up our orders, but C decided to stay and play with Sis's dog. We got back and the dress was destroyed. C had apparently tried to get it on, popping some seams and got stuck. Instead of waiting for help, she cut her way out. The dress was hacked to bits. Sis was devastated and asked us to leave. I grounded C and called Aunt with some pictures, asking if it could be saved. She said there was no chance. She said she'd make a new one, but it wasn't the same. Then she dropped the bomb on me. Grandma had hand-sewed most of the dress, used super expensive fabric and put almost 500 hours in making the dress. Since it was the only family wedding we'd have, in total the dress cost about $12,000, give or take. C has about $15,000 saved up from various jobs, as well as winning writing competitions. This was supposed to help her in college. I took her to the bank and set in motion transferring all the funds, since as a parent I still have control over it. $12,000 to Aunt to pay for the new dress, $3,000 to my sister's wedding as an emotional distress tax. I explained exactly why this was happening to C, but she sobbed the entire time, asking what she was supposed to do for college and saying it wasn't her fault. I told her she could get a job if she didn't get a scholarship, and it was her fault for trying on the dress after she had been told no, and for not waiting until we got back. A few pop seams could have been fixed, hacking the dress to pieces couldn't. C told my ex, and while she agreed C was in the wrong after the full story, said I shouldn't have ruined her future for a free dress. I reminded her of our rule, and she still thinks I'm wrong. So, am I the arsehole here? Edit, since people are mentioning they don't understand the $3,000. That was to make up to my sister that C destroyed the last gift our dead grandma ever gave her. I consider that part of the price of destroying the dress, since even if Aunt remakes it, it's lost a great deal of its sentiment value. I pointed out how young we were because I wanted to explain how a 31-year-old has a 16-year-old kid. I do not resent having her, she's the best thing I've ever done. I also brought up C's size because Sis has Crohn's disease and thus is very tiny. The dress was made for her size and C is much larger than Sis. I love C as she is, but just holding the dress up it was clear it wouldn't fit. The character count is very limiting. Edit to clarify. The money was C's have fun at college money, not a college fund. My ex and I are paying for whatever scholarships don't. When she was asking what she would do for college, she was asking what she'd do for fun and to buy things we didn't pay for. Again, the character count is very limiting, so I had to cut the details to post. Edit 3. So I got off the phone with my ex about 20 minutes ago. At some of your suggestions, I sent her the pictures and she freaked out. She apparently didn't believe me when I said it had been hacked apart and believed it was just a few torn seams. She was pretty much on my side after. She told me that she spent the entire day badgering our daughter, asking her why she did what she did. And finally C cracked and said she was mad that grandma wasn't alive to make her a dress and that it was unfair. My sister got a free beautiful dress as a reminder when my daughter got nothing.
despite the many things she was given after the funeral. She tried it on and took it off when the seams popped, and then in anger hacked it apart. If she couldn't have a dress from Grandma, no one could. Her own words. Honestly, knowing she did this on purpose has just made things worse. The fact she could be so cruel, that's not the daughter we tried to raise. She will be going to therapy, whether that's in person when the local therapists start taking new clients again, or one of those apps people have mentioned. We need to talk about it more. A punishment stands as is, though we're going to see how therapy goes. As for all the seamsters who have reached out, please know I'm touched by your kindness. I really am. My aunt is going to see if she can incorporate at least some of the fabric from the old dress into the new one. Maybe at least try to save the beading, but if there's anything usable, I'll reach out. I so appreciate all of your offers. You're incredibly kind people. I've yet to talk to my sister, but I have talked to her fiance. Sis isn't doing well. The stress has caused a Crohn's flare-up, so she's stuck in bed sick, which honestly I'm not surprised. Crohn's is often triggered by stressful events, so I was expecting it. I told fiance about aunt making a new dress, and she promised to take the remains over to aunt on Monday. She's thankful for us addressing the issue, but has asked for some space from sis so she can recover and heal, and hopefully not end up in the hospital. As for the $3,000, we'll see what my sister's state is in a few days. If she has to go to the hospital, then the money is forfeit for her medical bills, since it was C's selfishness that put her there, so she can pay for it. If sis does not end up in the hospital, then I consider giving it back after she'd gone to therapy for a few months. If she's accepted what she did was wrong and worked to make amends, we'll see what the next few months brings. And obviously we do have some additional information in those edits there, which may not be seen by some of the comments, so do take that into consideration when we do cover the comments. But fucking Bailey says not the arsehole, absolutely not. She ruined her own future. In my mind, that dress wasn't $12,000 or even $15,000. It was priceless. It could have and should have been passed down for generations. I'm horrified your daughter did such a thing. Most things don't go to college with savings, so she's just going to have to tough it out. Hope she looks back one day and realizes the payment she made was severely short. So sorry this happened to your family. Gold Dust Girl Boss says, I'm so confused by why your daughter's first response to getting stuck in the dress was to hack it up with scissors. That's a crazy response. Are we sure she didn't ruin the dress on purpose? You think having a great grandmother that's such a talented seamstress, she would know cutting the dress would ruin it. OP responded saying, I hadn't even thought of that. I believed at her word when she said that she tried it on and got stuck. Panda Boop says, not the arsehole, your daughter is old enough to know what she did was wrong. I think that you were right to give your sister the $12,000 for the dress. Your daughter can continue to work as she has time left before college, and she can also apply to scholarships, get loans or work while in college. I disagree with you giving your sister $3,000 from your kid's account though. I think you should give the $3,000 back to your daughter and tell your sister the $3,000 is from you. Did your daughter know the significance of the dress? I'm also very close to my grandma, and if I was in your sister's shoes, it would take me a very long time to forgive your daughter. So Say All says, not the arsehole, I'm on the fence about the punishment as that is a lot of money. However, would that even be a question if it wasn't family that made the dress and sis would have to pay $15,000 for a new dress from a shop? Probably not. I'm very confused as to why your 16-year-old would even act that this way. Is it a habit? Does she have a history? Trying the dress on, I can see a teen doing that. It ripped, bad, but not the end of the world. Completely cutting it open, however, that's insane. Valocat Mum says, not the arsehole, she is 16, not 6. She knew she wasn't supposed to try on the dress, but did it anyway. Most definitely is her fault. No one else was in the house except the dog. No one told her to put on the dress. No one forced her to cut up the dress. I'm thinking that she may have claimed to want to play with the dog as she had every intention of trying the dress on as soon as everybody left. As for those saying the distress tax was going too far, I disagree. Although I would call it punitive damages since she intentionally ruined the dress by cutting it. If any of my kids had pulled a stunt like that, I would have done what you did. I might have added the penalty of the kid not being allowed to stay at home alone for a while since they seem to need supervision and can't be trusted to not damage or destroy things. And one more from Lady Shanto who says, not the arsehole, it's usually really obvious when clothes are not going to fit you, when you try them on. Putting it back on, getting stuck and then cutting up, yeah, no. To me, it doesn't make sense to go that far. With a dress that doesn't fit, Unless there is another issue at hand. She knew she ruined it, even if it was initially a gift and was given for free. Remaking it won't be. It's a good lesson to learn. You break it, you pay for it. So then OP came in to update the post, which I mentioned was a couple of years later, which says, "Hey everyone, it's been a long time, and a lot of things have happened. I think it's finally gotten to the point where I can post an update that many of you asked for. I'll do shortest update to longest update. The dress. Many of you reached out and offered to try and help. I'm so thankful to you. I couldn't respond to everyone, but thank you so much. As some of you suggested, Grandpa used pieces of the original dress to make accessories for my sister to wear, and she loved them. She still wears some of the hair ties for special occasions. My aunt was able to make almost a perfect replica of the dress for the wedding, so while it wasn't the same, it was close. My sister. She did have to go to the hospital to treat her Crohn's flare-up. It was terrifying, and since she was immunocompromised, she did catch COVID-19. I was scared I was going to lose my baby sister, but thankfully she pulled through. She is now finally married to her wonderful wife. My ex and I tried to have C pay for the hospital bills, but my sister refused to take the money. They do have good insurance, luckily. Sister-in-law was still pissed and torn about having C at the wedding, but my sister insisted. C wasn't part of the wedding party, but she was still invited and joined their special day. While it's not forgotten or really forgiven, my sister is willing to move on at least. Finally, C. I think seeing her aunt so sick did help kickstart C realizing how wrong she had been, since it was a domino effect of her actions in the first place that started all of this. She herself admitted in therapy it was her jealousy over having to buy a wedding dress in the future instead of having one made for her like it was done for my sister. She does still struggle with her anger at times, but it is getting better. It turns out she used to get out all of her anger and aggression in sports at school with her friends, which is why she seemed so calm all the other times. But being in lockdown just forced everything to build up in an unhealthy way. Still not an excuse for what happened, but at least an explanation. As I said in an update last time, my ex and I are paying for college for whatever scholarships C doesn't get. So at the time, taking the $12,000 for the dress seems right. I do still stand by that. But after seeing how much she worked on herself and is trying to repair things with my sister, I've given her back the $3,000 my sister didn't take for hospital bills. She's also been working with my aunt and grandpa one day a week, as well as editing others' essays to build back up her fund money. I matched 50% and gave it to her when she graduated. She started college in the fall with a few scholarships and is continuing therapy. Things are still tedious with her and my sister, but they're working on it. C had been trying hard. Shown she is really sorry and is trying to fix things. I still think, well, we have a while to go, but we'll get there. And I was incredibly glad in this update to see that C is going to therapy and dealing with her anger issues, her jealousy issues, whatever she's going through at that moment, that she's trying to take some responsibility for it and deal with it. And I still kind of think that C should consider herself real lucky that sister has taken the path that she did. Looking back, I'm not sure if I'd be able to move past something like that. And I totally understand, as OP said, it's not an excuse, but COVID and lockdowns done just so much damage to people's mental health. But sister still having to deal with the consequences of that, seeing her dress absolutely destroyed, something that was so sentimental to her, but still being able to move past it. I think C should consider herself real lucky there to have her family round her after what happened. I'm not saying that C shouldn't be forgiven or anything like that. I think people can change. I think people can learn. I'm just saying I'm not sure if I would be able to look past it personally, at least for a very, very long time. But I hope whatever comes out of all of this is that I hope C has learned a lesson and continues the therapy, because I think taking anger and these jealousy issues with her into adulthood is going to make things extremely difficult. But OP, if you ever do hear this, I do wish you and your family the best going forward, and I hope things do work out and they continue to move forward for you. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Do you think you'd ever be able to look past something like this? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story.
Our next story comes from a throwaway account and says, "Am I the arsehole for mentioning my best friend's former crush on me in a speech at his wedding? Oh, bloody hell. Okay, I'm currently in a predicament, and frankly, I could really use some opinions. For backstory, I, female 27, met one of my best friends, Christian, male 26, back in 2010, during our freshman year of high school. We became friends and remained close over the years since, making a lot of great memories and sharing mutual close friends. From 2013 to 2016, Christian had pretty serious, unrequited feelings for me. However, he eventually got over me, and I had never even let his feelings harm our friendship. If anything, our friendship honestly got closer after he got over me. In early 2018, Christian met Victoria, female 29, at a bar, and they hit it off. They started dating after 2 weeks, got engaged in late 2021, and the wedding happened yesterday night. It was honestly a great time, as I watched with my parents and mutual friends as this kid I've known for 12 years was getting married to the love of his life. Plus, Victoria and I honestly had a pretty decent relationship, and according to Christian, she didn't really seem to care about his past feelings as time went on. Anyway, as the night kept going with a lot of music and dancing, I got up to eventually give a speech for Christian. I talked about how we first met, how much our lives changed since then, and just how great of a person Christian was. The attendees were clearly touched, and Christian and Victoria both looked happy. As I talked more about our history, I jokingly mentioned how Christian had the hots for me, but that didn't matter because he found his soulmate and that our friendship was stronger than some unrequited feelings. Most of the crowd laughed, and I could even see Christian smiling for a second before seeing Victoria's confused face. After the speech was over, I went over to the bar with a few friends. Christian came up and hugged me, thanking me for the speech. However, at our hotel, one of my other best friends, Devon, female 27, told me she heard gossip from the bridesmaids that Victoria was really upset with me for bringing up Christian's previous feelings for me at the wedding. Apparently, Victoria genuinely had no issue with Christian's feelings, but felt it was inappropriate to mention them at a wedding. I sincerely intended no harm with my actions. Maybe I didn't read the room. Everyone I've told is honestly split on whether I'm the bad guy or not, so it's definitely polarizing. Christian hasn't mentioned any of this to me, and I'm not sure I should ask him. Am I the arsehole? Oh my word. You know when you shrivel into your chair as you're reading a story? That's literally what was happening to me. I was getting smaller and smaller as that story was going on. Just the thought process, you said you sincerely intended no harm with your actions, but I don't know how you can have that. You wrote out this speech and you must have rehearsed it to yourself or something, and it didn't pop into your head that maybe that's not a good thing to say at someone else's wedding. The day is meant to be about them, and you come out with that like, oh, I could have had him if I wanted to. oh, dearie me. And the crush was years ago as well, but a commenter says, oh, you pulled the he was into me first card. He was in love with me, but I turned him down, and now he's with you. Yeah, you're the arsehole. How tasteless. Another commenter says, I agree, this screams, I should always be the center of attention. Intended or not. Another commenter says, also, your crush was such an ego boost that I still revel in it 6 years after it ended. Another commenter says, you'll be forever known as the groom's female friend who said he was into me first during a speech at the wedding. There's a time and place for jokes like that, but a speech at a wedding reception isn't one of them. You're the arsehole. Stinky Jane says, exactly. OP for sure owes the couple an apology, but frankly the person she humiliated here is herself. All the guests at the wedding will be dining off this story for years to come. The time I went to a wedding and a drunk friend of the groom tried to imply he was a sloppy seconds to the bride is a pretty killer anecdote, likely to elicit many horrified reactions and follow-up questions from its audience. Lizzie Lou says you're the arsehole. You don't bring that stuff up at a wedding, joking or not. The speech was supposed to be about Christian and Victoria, not about Christian's past feelings for you. Imagine how uncomfortable you made Victoria feel. I also bet the crowd laughed out of more of discomfort for the situation. You need to apologize to the bride and groom. I understand you didn't mean that comment maliciously at all. It was just wildly inappropriate considering the time and place. And the final commenter says, you're the arsehole. That was inappropriate and I'm not sure how you could think otherwise. Wedding speeches should be about the bride and groom, not about you and the groom's history. As a side note, it sort of sounds like you weren't invited to give a speech and just sort of did. Or was there an open mic for speeches? If you just got drunk and took it upon yourself to speak, double you're the arsehole for that. I gotta admit that did cross my mind at the same time. It did sound like OP just decided to give a speech there and then, which would just make the situation even weirder to me, but OP was overwhelmingly voted the arsehole in this situation. Then OP came in with a couple of edit/updates on this one and says, edit, to those of you asking about whether the speech was planned or impromptu, I'd asked Christian's parents beforehand if I could give a speech, and they were more than happy with it. People have to stop with the assumptions that this has anything to do with me having feelings though. Yeah, saying that in my speech was probably an idiot move, but my sincere intention was to tell everyone about our 12 years of friendship and some of its history. And like I said, people were touched up until my fateful joke. Why was the parents asked? I don't get it. Another edit/update says, I've accepted I'm the arsehole, everyone. I genuinely didn't mean any ill will bringing the crush up. It really was a way to reminisce on me and Christian's history of friendship and how far we had come. But I've realized how the wedding was the worst possible time to bring that up, even if Victoria didn't care about the feelings in the past. I talked with Christian for a bit, and having known me for 12 years, he wasn't too mad and he said he understood I didn't have intentionally ill motives. He did tell me I needed to apologize to Victoria. I told him I wanted to do it anyway, and I called and apologized to Victoria on the phone. We talked for around 2 hours about the whole thing, and she understood I wasn't intentionally trying to hurt either of them. I said it was unacceptable of me to ruin their wedding day, but Victoria assured me it was still a wonderful day for them, and she was happy I realized my fault. So yes, we're all pretty much good again, and I will watch it more with this stuff in the future. To those of you who gave me feedback in a civil manner, thanks for opening my eyes. And there was a lot of people saying that it was absolutely the right thing to do to apologize in this situation. Other people, like myself, felt the edits were a bit weird in some way. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh here. You know, the initial asking parents, it just came across as bizarre. Why would you asking the parents for permission to give a speech at their wedding, you know, instead of the actual married couple? Seemed like a really odd power dynamic, if you like. Like it kind of felt maybe she was trying to go around Victoria, or if there's some other kind of family drama there. That might be just my Reddit head going off, you know. And the comment from OP saying that I ruined their wedding day. It's like main character energy, right? Victoria turning around to her and saying the day was still wonderful, but OP's like, no, I'm sorry, I ruined the entire day. And the husband telling OP that she needed to apologize to Victoria, but OP replies straight away, I told him I wanted to do it anyway. And I get that I'm putting OP in a position where she can't win there, but the wording, and it could be just text format, it could be a whole bunch of things, but it just all came across as a bit main character, a bit weird for me. But what do you guys make of this situation? Oh, it just made me shrivel up this story. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another one. Our next story comes from a throwaway account and asks, am I the a-hole for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invite my underage son? I, 40 male, have a sister, 30 female, who's getting married in a week. The groom proposed to her a year ago at a family dinner that left everyone speechless, but very happy for them as they are longtime companions. During this dinner, my sister asked my son, 17 male, to make her wedding dress. My son has always loved design and fashion. He took technical courses in these areas and sewing, and even his friends keep asking for his clothes because they are so beautiful. He agreed but said that he needed time and that he would need her opinion constantly. At first, my sister was very annoying. My son drew about 50 dress designs in a month and she only liked one, which he continued with. He sewed it with great quality fabric, which I paid for as I wanted to get involved in a certain way. For 5 months, he made several adjustments to suit her wishes, as she always complained about something. After a while, he arrived at the final model, and it was just amazing. My mother cried seeing my sister in the dress, and I confess that I almost got emotional too. The problem was that last week my son came to talk to me about the wedding invitation that had not arrived for him, but for other family members. I thought that maybe he didn't need one, but it still felt weird. I messaged my sister raising the issue and she replied that she didn't want any underage people at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I asked if she was going to make an exception for my son, but she cut me off and said no. There are no children in our family. My son is the only minor. So I didn't see any sense in this rule for family members. And to make matters worse, my son was very sad and cried because he spent months on this dress and couldn't go to the wedding. I was very upset and told my sister that she should look for another dress as soon as possible, as she would no longer wear the one my son made. She called and yelled at me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I couldn't do this. My mother called me saying that I should deliver the dress and follow the rules, but I didn't and hung up on her. Because of this, the family is divided. Many agree with me and condemn my sister's actions, saying she could only make an exception. But another part says I'm unreasonable and I'm spoiling her big day. I don't think I'm being wrong, but just rational and paying her back in kind. So, am I the a-hole? And a lot of these stories we cover where people don't want to invite children to their wedding, absolutely. I mean, this guy's 17. I don't really consider him as a child, but this is a very unique situation in the fact that he's made the dress and there is no other children attending. So it's like she's singling him out for some reason. And it just left me questioning what that reason is. But yeah, absolutely not the a-hole to me at all in this situation. The audacity of this person. But ResDog says, not the a-hole, he should go and wear the dress. Lowware says, not the a-hole. If she is willing to make an adult-sized request of a 17-year-old, she should be willing to accept him as an adult. There is no reason that a minor cannot attend a wedding with an open bar, as every venue I looked at for my wedding and every open bar wedding I've attended has a bartender that checked IDs. Financially Broke Hoot says, not the a-hole. Jan effed around and found out. Shouldn't mess with a dressmaker, but whatever you do, charge her for the dress. It's priceless, sure. The problem is you're setting a precedence to your relatives in place of your son. Now a lot of your relatives are going to expect a free wedding dress because it happened once. Yes, your son is still learning. Yes, you paid for the fabric. It's still worth months of his work, his labor. Whether or not you give the dress to her, charge her, especially since she was difficult to work with. Go to small claims court if you have to, so that your son won't be taken advantage of in the future. Tralana Sakuyu says, not the a-hole, but your sister definitely is. She doesn't want her almost adult nephew who designed and made her a dress at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I can understand if she didn't want to make an exception for a friend or even a cousin, making an exception for her only minor nephew, especially given that she could have pointed him out when people asked about the dress. Would have been not only understandable but practically obligatory to anyone hearing about the circumstances. I have to wonder if she was even planning on letting anyone know who was the designer and the tailor of the dress. Can you imagine a family member working on a custom dress for you for months, putting all their effort into it, all their love into it as well, and then not inviting them to your wedding, not honoring them in some way for everything they've done for you? And one more comment from Plano Chubby Boy who says, take some pictures of the dress and post them on Instagram and Facebook availability to the highest bidder. Make her suffer realizing that someone else will get to wear the gorgeous gown your son designed. Who knows, he might get discovered by YSL or Armani. So then OP updates the post the next day and says, first I would like to thank all the comments and suggestions. I really didn't expect my post to resonate so much. I talked to my son about the suggestion you guys gave me, and he agreed to sell the dress at market price. He calculated the price of everything and the value was quite high. We sent the proposal to my sister and she hated it. She said she couldn't afford it because it was too expensive and it should be a gift because she is family. I responded by saying that it was too easy to say she was family to get a free dress, but not enough to include my son. She cried on the call and begged me not to ruin her day, but I didn't call because that to me was bullcrap. At no point did she offer to let my son go or apologize for it. And for anyone who said that maybe she's homophobic, I'm not sure, but I think who could be influencing her as a fiancé who is a Christian and has never been close to my son. However, I don't care if he's doing it or not. If she wants to exclude my son from this event, then she will also be cutting ties with me. And for those who are asking for a photo of the dress, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but my son didn't agree, and unfortunately I won't post it because of that. If anything else happens, I'll let you know. Until then, thank you all. Someone in the comments says, if you don't mind, how much was the value of the dress? OP says something around
22 to 25k. Mother of He-Man, 25k. Whew-wee. Then OP comes back in with one more update, which says, sorry for the delay, but it's been a busy week. Many family members skipped my sister's wedding and decided to have a party at the cousin's house instead of attending the wedding. My sister is obviously very upset and has cut us all off on her social media. She got another dress to get married, but everyone thought it was cheap compared to what she was going to wear. And I would like to inform you that someone already bought the dress that my son made. It was for a good price and it will help him cover his college costs. There's not much to say, but I'd like to make this final point to let you guys know. I was getting very much choosing beggar vibes. I love that subreddit. It's one of my faves. When she was saying, oh, but don't ruin my wedding day. You have to give it to me because family. Oh my word. What do you guys make of this situation? 17 years old and able to make wedding dresses. What? Amazing skill. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Well, let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from a throwaway account and it's titled, Am I the Arsehole for wanting to uninvite my sister-in-law from my wedding because she keeps undermining my wedding planning? Sorry, even after removing some stuff, this turned out to be really long. Throwaway, so hopefully Kayla doesn't find this. My fiance Nate, 27 male, and I, 26 female, have been together for almost 3 years. He proposed to me about 6 months ago, and shortly after, we found out I was pregnant. We are planning on having our wedding in the spring of next year. Nate has a twin sister, 27 female, who we will call Kayla. Nate and I announced our engagement and my pregnancy at the same time. We made a cute little Facebook post with a couple of engagement pics and an ultrasound photo that said something along the lines of, the Smith family is going to have 2 new additions. Kayla commented almost immediately that we'll have to wait until next year to actually get married because she looks best in fall colors. And as maid of honor, she'll get a say in choosing bridesmaids' dresses. I literally stared at my phone screen wondering if I had read something wrong. I showed the comment to Nate and asked him why she thought she would be my maid of honor. He had no clue. So I texted her and this is how that exchange went. I said, hey Kayla, I see you saw our announcement on Facebook. Thank you for being ready to step up for me, but we haven't started working out wedding logistics yet, and I haven't picked my bridesmaids, and much less my maid of honor. Once we have more details of the wedding worked out, we will let you know. She responded, well, you don't have to choose a maid of honor anymore. I'm your maid of honor. I said, I don't understand. I never asked you to be. She said, you don't have to ask. That's what makes me such a good sister. I said, I'm sorry, you're not my maid of honor. She said, we'll see about that. OP continues, I showed these messages to Nate, who said he will deal with it. I have no idea what the extent of their conversation was, but Kayla never brought up being my maid of honor again. She just reared her ugly attitude in different ways. As of now, Nate and I have booked the venues, caterer, the florals, decorations, and the DJ already. A couple of months ago, I invited mine and Nate's mothers, along with my sister Sam, who I asked to be my maid of honor, to do some dress shopping. Kayla found out from her mum and invited herself to tag along. We started by looking for a dress for Sam. I wanted my bridesmaids in a pretty pastel yellow, but Sam's is going to be more golden. Kayla would not shut up about how yellow is such an ugly color and I should go with pink or blue instead. She even grabbed a bunch of pink and blue dresses to try on herself. I tried my best to ignore her while her mother entertained her bizarre ideas. Sam and my mother were making constant comments about how it's my wedding and if Kayla isn't going to be helpful, she should just leave. Unfortunately, she didn't, and I'm too nice to kick her out in front of my mother-in-law, who I already have a strained relationship with. Our mothers were able to shop for their dresses with little interference from Kayla, but as soon as I started trying things on, she had all sorts of things to say. She would tell me that certain styles wouldn't look good once I had a baby bod, and even told me I should consider not wearing white since I'm obviously not a virgin. I told her she wasn't a virgin when she got married either, yet she still wore an adorable white sundress to the courthouse. She grumbled about how that wasn't the same, but I was already halfway back to the changing room. I still don't know what happened while I was in there, but when I came out,
Kayla and mother-in-law were gone, and Sam had a smug smile on her face. I never discussed any details of the wedding with Kayla, if I could help it, but I've heard Nate sharing some of our plans with her. He told her we were planning on a buffet-style meal because we have a lot of dietary restrictions in our families, and that was the cheapest way to accommodate everybody. Literally like a few $1,000s difference, and she told him he deserved someone who wouldn't go cheap on his wedding, even though the buffet was his idea. He told her about our venue choices. He picked the reception venue, I picked the ceremony venue, which is the same place my parents got married. My father passed away, and since he cannot walk me down the aisle, I always wanted to get married in the same place he married my mum, to sort of feel like he was there with us. She told Nate that my venue choice was tacky and people would make fun of us. When he mentioned he wanted a DJ, she made a comment about how she knew I wasn't classy enough to want a live band. Each and every time she would make comments like this, Nate would tell her that they were his ideas, but not call her out for how she spoke about me, which I do feel a little hurt by. I've expressed this to him and he told me that he would try to do better about calling her out, but she's just always been this way. I told him that's no excuse for her to be disrespectful and stick her nose into business that doesn't concern her. He hesitantly agreed. On Friday, I got an email from the venue for our ceremony, confirming our cancellation and asking if we needed to reschedule. Shortly after that, I got a voicemail from our caterer explaining that my new wedding planner had just called, but the line had dropped and was wondering if I could pass along her phone number so they could finish going over changes to the menu. I immediately emailed the venue back saying that no, we are not cancelling or rescheduling. Please keep our original date on the books. I called the caterer, explained that a woman had called and said she was my new wedding planner. She had said that I wanted to make some changes to the contract, namely switching from a buffet style to plated meals. I told them this was not the case. I do not have a wedding planner and please do not make any changes unless contacted by me or Nate directly with the contact information we have on file. Caterer suggested putting a password on file also. He said he wouldn't make any changes unless the person requesting them knew the password. I called both venues and all of our other venues to put in place the same types of precautions. They all gave their sympathies for me to have to deal with this. When they got home from work, I confronted him about it. I told him someone tried to cancel my venue and change our catering. I told him the only person it could be is Kayla. He tried to deny and say that she wouldn't do it, but I reminded him of how she's undermined and insulted me during every step of this engagement. I told him I wanted her uninvited. I will give someone who has already done so much to make this wedding stressful the opportunity to do something like show up in white. He fought me on this, but basically I told him that I felt disrespected by him over how he is allowing Kayla to treat me. I'm his partner and the mother of his child. My feelings and comfort should be more important to him than his sister's childish antics. We met with her for lunch earlier today, and once we got dessert, he asked her if she was trying to make changes to our wedding plans. She said, and I quote, "Well, yeah, it's the maid of honor's job to make sure the bride is making the right decisions." Before Nate could even say anything, I told her she is not my maid of honor, and even if she was, that would not give her the authority to undermine our decisions and make changes to the wedding plans and budget behind our backs. She said she didn't see what the big deal was since her grandmother had offered us a pretty large chunk of change as a present to help pay for the wedding. I told her again, the wedding budget is none of her business. She tried to argue, but I just cut her off. I told her that her behavior regarding our wedding thus far has been nothing but disrespectful and insulting. I told her trying to cancel my venue had crossed the line and she was no longer invited to the wedding. She seemed absolutely shocked by this. She looked at Nate, waiting for him to defend her. And then he did. He looked at me and said, "Why don't we give her one more chance?" I asked if he was kidding. He said no, that Kayla was only doing what she thought was best for us, and now that we've told her that it wasn't okay, we should give her a chance to correct her behavior. I didn't even respond. I just got up and left. I went and got in my car and drove home, thinking to myself, if he wanted to side with his sister, then he could rely on her to get home. I ignored him trying to get a hold of me. Once at home, I packed a small bag and left for Sam's house. I told her everything, and she told me I could stay as long as I needed to. But now she's at work for the night, and that's where I am now, trying to process what just happened, trying to figure out when I became second place in Nate's life, trying to figure out if there's any way to fix what just broke in me. He keeps switching between asking where I am, telling me he didn't think this was that big of a deal, and apologizing and asking me to come home and talk. I don't feel ready to talk to him just yet. I'm still too upset, and I feel like I'll do or say something that I will regret, like call off the wedding altogether. I just told all my venues that we aren't cancelling the wedding, but right now I kind of want to. I don't know if it's my hormones making me feel crazy or if I'm valid in how hurt I'm feeling. I just don't know what to do or what to think. So, am I the arsehole for not wanting to give her a second chance? Or is my fiancé right that she deserves a chance to prove herself before she's uninvited from the wedding altogether? Now, of course, absolutely not the arsehole in the situation, and of course, as always in this, Kayla is an issue, absolutely, but you have a fiancé problem as well that he's not going to back you up in situations like this. I mean, give her another chance, and she's doing what she thinks is best. After actively pretending to be your wedding planner and phoning up your vendors, it's unhinged behavior. And Nate is super concerning as well, just watching her disrespect you for months and never shutting it down. And I would strongly be thinking, is it the right time for the wedding now? Because there's some serious stuff going on that needs to be addressed before even moving forward. If he will, of course. At present, Duck says, you are in the right, and I think a wedding cancellation or at least a delay is in order until he can show you come before his sister. His sister tried to change the venue that was meaningful for you because it was a reminder of your father. Cancel that over anything else is not just over the line, but it's cruel. You gave him many chances to get her in line. He failed. One thing I would recommend if you do go forward with him is that when meeting with her, let him take the lead. Even if you don't agree with what he is saying, it will be the biggest indicator of his mindset and ensures that she doesn't or can't blame you for boundaries he is placing. Opie replies saying thank you. He keeps saying I just don't know her well enough to know that all the comments and jokes are harmless. But this one wasn't just a comment. She actually tried to cancel my venue. I honestly couldn't care less about the catering. That one was just weird, but my venue was special. It was too far. Chaotic Good says, your fiancé is spineless and his sister is a delusional bully. You also said you have a strained relationship with his mother. Why are you marrying into this mess? So then, Opie came in with her update and says, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who read my original post and offered their judgments and advice. Writing this out really helped me process what I was feeling, and hearing that I wasn't overreacting or just being hormonal from people that are removed from the situation was very comforting. I read every single comment, and there is no way to express how much all the kind words meant to me. There were lots and lots of comments asking for an update, but I wanted to wait until after I had talked to Nate. I spent last night at Sam's house and mostly ignored Nate's texts and calls. Kayla texted me once, also telling me not to let my hormones make me irrational. I just blocked her, but someone advised to unblock and just silence her notifications so if she escalates, I could maybe use it in court for my custody case. I did unblock her earlier today, and I'm glad I did, but we'll get there. I replied to Nate at one point last night telling him that I was safe at Sam's house and that I would be home today, after work to talk about everything. I expressed again that I was feeling really hurt about not being heard or backed up by him, and that I needed time to decide what I wanted to do. He asked what I meant by that, if I meant cancelling the wedding altogether. I told him that is exactly what I was considering. His reply? Don't let your hormones make you do something irrational. We'll talk tomorrow. Anyone else want to take a guess as to where he got that line? That's just about made my decision for me. I didn't reply, not even when he texted me, good night, I love you. Instead, before I went to bed for the night, I sent him a link to my post and told him to read through it before we talk. Someone said he probably sent it to Kayla too. If she did read it, she hasn't commented it, and if she texted me about it, it was while I had her blocked. This morning, I called into work and had breakfast with Sam. She gave me the number of a family lawyer that her friend used for his custody case. I spoke to the assistant, explained my situation, and luckily she had an open slot after lunch for an initial consult. So I took a shower and basically just kept reading through the comments on my post until it was time to talk to her. I told the lawyer exactly why I'm leaving Nate and how I'm terrified over how his sister would influence him with our baby. I don't trust him to not be influenced by Kayla and to have our baby's best interest in mind. So I want to fight for sole custody and supervised visitation. I told her, if possible, I want to include something that restricts Kayla from having any contact with my child. I am already mentally preparing to have to fight Nate in court, because I know he will not agree to any of this. My lawyer told me that while my concerns are valid, it may be difficult to convince a judge to put a contact restriction in the custody order based on the family drama alone. She advised me to document everything Kayla has done and anything moving forward, so we can present it to a judge if and when we end up in court. She gave me a list of things to think about, like if I want Nate to get any custody at all or just visitation. I want to handle things like medical care or education for my child. If I want to put communication restrictions like only talking over text. Lots of things I never would have thought of and never thought I would have to think of. We were supposed to do all of this together. She told me to take a few days to gather my thoughts and decide on what I want. I scheduled an in-person meeting for this Friday to go over everything. Hopefully, I'll have my mind straight by then. But if anyone has any advice when it comes to what to put on these custody papers, I'm all ears. After the phone call with my lawyer, I checked some more comments and then took a much-needed nap. When I woke up, I had a text from Nate asking what time I would be off work so he could have dinner ready for me when I get home. I told him I'd be there around 5, but if Kayla is there, I'll be turning around and leaving without a word. I then asked him if he read the post I sent him, and he said, I did, but I'd rather talk to you than read you bash me and my sister on the internet with a bunch of strangers. Don't worry, I told Kayla she's not welcome. This pissed me off beyond belief. Clearly he either didn't read the post or still doesn't realize how truly in the wrong that they are. Either way, I lost all motivation to try and talk and work things out. I'm just done. I texted him, don't worry about dinner. All I'll be doing is gathering some more things and dropping off my lawyer's contact info. There is nothing more for us to discuss. He asked what I meant, what lawyer, and told me he'd been waiting to talk about this. All I said was, fine. Sam wished me luck before I left and assured me I was welcome back once we were done talking. I told her I absolutely would be back and thanked her for everything so far. Then I stopped and got one of those boba refreshers from Starbucks to calm my nerves before I went home. When I got home, Nate had dinner ready just like he said. I ignored him and just went straight to our room to pack up some more of my clothes and toiletries. He tried asking me if I really wasn't going to talk to him, but I just ignored him for the time being. Just seeing his face made my anger flare up, and I wanted to be smart about our discussion. After a while, he gave up and just went to eat in the dining room. When I was finished, I went and sat with him at the table, but didn't touch any of the food. I started a voice memo on my phone before I said, "Go ahead." He looked at me all confused, so I told him he was the one that wanted to talk and must have so much to say, so go ahead. He stumbled over his words for a while, but ultimately started off with an apology, trying to tell me he didn't realize I was so upset with Kayla's behavior. I asked him if he remembered how hard I cried after I got home from dress shopping because of her comments about my choices and my body. If he remembered having to talk to her about not being my maid of honor. If he remembered our conversation just a few days ago where I told him cancelling my venue that held so much sentiment to me was way too far over the line. He said he did each time and tried to add a but to argue, but I just cut him off with my next example. I told him that after all of that, he 100% should have known I was beyond done with her bullshit. I told him I was so hurt and pissed that I wanted her uninvited, but he wanted to give her another chance. For what? Cancel our DJ and book a live band, dye my dress red or show up in white herself. He told me she would never do that. I told him he told me she would never cancel my venue, but then she admitted it in front of our faces. I told him I don't trust his opinion on his sister and that he is just as delusional as her if he thinks she will change. I asked him why he even told us so many details of our wedding anyway. Why does her opinion for our wedding even matter? He tried to tell me that because Kayla didn't get to have a real wedding when she got married, she was just a little too excited about ours. I told him she has all the right in the world to be excited, but that does not give her any rights to insult or change our choices regarding what we would want for our wedding. She have plenty of opportunities to have a real wedding. If she could stop for 2 seconds and take her nose out of our wedding business, she could go out and find a man or woman to marry herself. Poor soul, whoever that may be. I asked him, what's next? She gets to name our baby since she lost her own. The look on his face made my stomach feel hollow. He told me, and I quote, actually, Kayla does have a few ideas for what we could name our daughter. Daughter? Side note, I'd mentioned in a comment previously that we were waiting to be surprised about the gender of our baby. We were discussing baby names and had settled on the top 3 for each gender. We agreed to keep them to ourselves until the baby is born. I asked if he said daughter, and he looked like a deer caught in my headlights. He backtracked, but I pressed the issue. I asked him flat out if he knows the gender of our baby. He hesitated, but ultimately confessed to remembering that I filled out an information release form at my first OB visit. So he called the office and asked them for the results of our gender scan, claiming that we changed our minds and he was going to do a reveal for me. I feel absolutely sick and violated. I asked him what the fuck he was thinking. He said Kayla was feeling left out since Sam was planning my baby shower and not including her, and that she just couldn't wait to find out. I demanded he tell me everything. What else has he gone behind my back to do? Did he give her the idea to pretend to be our wedding planner? Was he the one that had her cancel my venue and change our catering? He tried to tell me no, of course not. She did that on her own. But I could just tell he was lying. He absolutely put her up to all of this. At that point, I didn't even care what he did. It's clear that none of our decisions will ever actually be ours. He will always do whatever the hell he wants to and get Kayla to back him up. I don't even want to think about how many of our decisions in the past were completely undermined and changed by these two. I asked him if Kayla came to him and told him everything I'm telling him, that she doesn't feel supported by her partner, that her partner went behind her back to learn the gender of their baby without her, that her partner was retroactively changing every decision that they agreed upon, that her partner was letting their sibling bully her relentlessly. What would he say to her? He didn't have a response, and honestly, if he did, I didn't want to hear it anymore. I knew the answer. I told him that as the woman who is supposed to be his wife, me and the baby I'm carrying should be his top priority, not his twin sister. I said him going behind my back like this for something as important as the gender of our baby is absolutely unforgivable. There is nothing that he can say or do to fix this now. I told him I will no longer be marrying him, but it's up to him if he wants to cancel all the vendors. I said you're more than welcome to use it all to marry Kayla, seeing as she's the one you obviously could care the most about. He tried to backtrack and apologize and explain, but every time I just cut him off and told him that I had heard enough and my mind was made up. There is no going back now. If he wants to have even the slimmest chance to get me back and have a real relationship with our baby, he will need to attend some serious therapy and do a lot of work on himself and his relationship with Kayla. I told him no woman in her right mind would ever marry him while he was this enmeshed with her. I told him that any contact we have moving forward will be through my lawyer. I want nothing to do with his family. And if I get what I want, they will have nothing to do with my daughter because I'll be damned if I let him subject her to this treatment. I put my lawyer's name and phone number on the table and walked out. He didn't try to follow me. So now, on top of dealing with my lawyer for the custody case, do I have to file a complaint with my OB office? Are they allowed to just give this information without my express consent? Or did me stupidly putting him on the information release form I signed give him the blanket consent to share any and all information with him? God, I didn't think this could get any worse. But I guess that's on me for being naive. I'm glad I recorded the conversation though, and got him admitting to doing all of this. I don't know how or if it will help my custody case, but I sent it to my lawyer with a note that we can discuss more on Friday. I'm back at Sam's place now. She was already at work when I got back, but I texted her to wake me up when she gets home. I need my sister. I also called my mum and told her everything that's happened so far. She cried with me for a while and then asked me if I needed her to do anything. I asked her if she'd be willing to go to the house with Sam and get the rest of my stuff because I don't want to see Nate right now. Just picturing his face is making me feel sick. She said she is more than willing. Kayla did text me again. I'm assuming Nate talked to her after I left. It's a very long, cruel message that I don't want to repeat here. I can post a screenshot if anyone cares for the whole message, if I can figure out how to attach one, but to summarize, she just called me a delusional control freak who can't let Nate make any decisions for himself, and insulted my venue choice once again, and then said that she hopes my baby is stillborn because I don't deserve to be a mother. Honestly, after reading it, I thought the message would hurt, but it just gave me a really good laugh. I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer as well. And that's where we're at. The wedding is off. I'll call all the vendors tomorrow and see if we can get any of the deposits back. If not, I'll let them know how to contact Nate and Kayla to see if they would like to keep things as planned. Let them throw a party for all I care, but I will be cancelling my venue regardless of my refund. Neither of them are going to step foot in that sacred place if I can help it. I didn't realize how much I was letting this weigh on me until now. I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders, even though a new one is settling very quickly. Writing everything out like this is truly freaking helpful for me to process how I'm feeling and what I need to do. I don't know if I'll keep doing formal updates, but for anyone who's interested, maybe I'll treat this profile like a little journal as all this unfolds. Thanks again to everyone for all your advice and for showing me I'm not crazy. Crazy Dog Foster Mum says, not the arsehole. I'm glad you're not going through with the wedding. Also, very smart of you to record your conversation with Nate. Please follow your attorney's instruction. I hope you can move home with your mum or go live with your sister. Kayla is crazy and you need to put security cameras up for your protection. It might be better for you to move out of state, have primary and hopefully 100% custody of your daughter. Revoke the release of medical information. Lock down your medical records with a password since Nate knows your date of birth and probably your social security number. I'm proud of you. Commenter says lock down credit. Also, since Nate knows Kayla knows, and I wouldn't be surprised if she tried further identity theft. Opie says not something I would ever think of. Luckily our finances are mostly split still, but he does know my social. Just another thing to add to my to-do list for tomorrow. Another commenter says, I know this is really overwhelming, but I would also encourage changing passwords to your email and banking or anything specific that Nate could have access to, and therefore Kayla could have access to. Consider getting a new credit card issued as well. She's unstable enough from what you shared that I wouldn't want her to create even more chaos for you. Wishing you all the best, and I'm so sorry that this is happening. Fire and Water Kai says, wow, if Nate reads this, your sister just wished your baby dead. I bet he'll comfort her for saying it. Spineless POS says, I hope her statement gives some weight to your argument that she shouldn't have contact with the baby, and that Nate isn't responsible, coherent, and so many other words I want to say that will get me in trouble, enough to care for a child. I can't wait to read an update a while from now where you're thriving and so is the baby OP. And there was a lot of comments just wishing OP well after this and how shocking it must be for all of this to come out now. Some people were relieved saying at least it's come out now than when you're actually married and linked in that way as well. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Our next story comes from Jackson Ryder, who says, wife says I need to get over it, but I can't stop obsessing over a prank that ruined my wedding experience and left me furious. Wife says I need to get over it, but I can't stop obsessing over a prank that ruined my wedding experience and left me furious. Had an amazing wedding experience that was completely ruined by a prank my wife and friends played during the garter removal. Am I the arsehole for refusing to let it go? During the reception, we were all doing the usual wedding games. Eventually I was told it was time to do the garter removal. As everyone gathered around us in the middle of the dance floor, my wife was sitting in a chair and my friends brought out a blindfold and told me that I'd be doing the garter removal blindfolded. I should have been suspicious at their grins, but I'd had some drinks. Wasn't suspecting anything, put it on, and tried to be a good sport about it. As everyone seemed like they were having a great time, myself included. As soon as I was blindfolded, however, my wife slipped out of the chair and was replaced by one of my groomsmen. He's a friend of the family I've grown up with, but I would not say we are close. Now, I literally cannot stand him, although he's not a bad guy other than my anger at this prank. Sitting in the chair in place of my wife, my groomsman was in shorts with a garter around his thigh. My wife stood up behind him and was talking to me as they walked me over, to keep me fooled into thinking it was her. On their instructions, I got down on my knees and began reaching for what I thought were my wife's legs. Once I found the leg, I found the garter and began pulling it down. But at that moment I heard my wife saying, with your mouth, with your mouth. So I leaned forward and grasped the garter belt in my mouth, to the shrieks and applause of the crowd. With the garter in my teeth, I pulled it down his leg, And then my wife actually came around to help me get it over his shoe because it got stuck. Once I had the garter, they told me to stand up and take off my blindfold. When I did, I was smiling because I thought I'd been a good sport and everyone was laughing so hard it seemed like everyone was having a great time. But when I took off the blindfold, everyone burst into even louder laughter. For a moment, the entire energy of everyone at the wedding was focused on nothing besides laughing at me being the sole butt of the joke. It felt awful. I was furious. I wanted to say and do a million different things, but I didn't. For some reason, I just felt that pretending it wasn't a big deal was the best defense. That showing anger would be confirming how badly I'd just been humiliated for their delight, and that would have made my humiliation all the worse. So I sucked it up, slept walk through the rest of the wedding while doing my best to keep a smile on my face. My wife could tell I was stunned, but she kept on going too. She definitely had no idea how badly I was taking it. Everyone was standing around us and we couldn't talk openly about how I felt. At least not without ruining everything. And I didn't know whether I wanted to go there after all the effort and money put into the wedding. And I kept sucking it up the next day at brunch and for the most of the next week through most of our honeymoon. At some point I told myself that my wife didn't mean to hurt me and there was no reason to ruin her wedding memories by telling her that my experience had been ruined. But then at the end of our honeymoon, I'd had a few drinks and I just couldn't help it. And once I started talking to her about it, I just went off. I told her it was trashy, that it hurt, if not destroyed my trust and sense of intimacy towards her. I was harsh and got carried away. After her first apologizing a bit, she got upset and left me sitting out there. I think I just kept going because I felt hurt and wanted to maybe make her feel bad as well, to be honest. Since then, it's been a difficult subject. I've told her I don't want to hear about the wedding. I don't want to write thank you notes, look at pictures. If it was tomorrow, I wouldn't make plans to celebrate our anniversary. My wife and I have a lot of strength in our relationship, but I just can't stop thinking about this and the feeling that when I took off that blindfold, I literally cannot stop my mind from replaying it over and over, and I get mad again every time. And perhaps the worst part of it is that it's all recorded. We had a professional photographer shooting a video, and in the video I see at least 4 other people recording it on their phones. Watching the video, I find myself looking at laughing faces of family and friends in the video, and there's a part of me that I'd never act on, that wants nothing more than to punch them all in their faces. The fact that I know these videos are out there makes it feel like it's constantly happening to me. My wife says that she's sorry, that she thought I would take it better and laugh it off, that I need to move on. I think maybe I am the arsehole. No good is coming from obsessing over this, but I literally cannot let it go. I find myself coming up with reasons to be angry. I tell myself sometimes it was assault because I was tricked into putting my mouth on another man's leg without my consent. But I think that's just rationalizing my anger. I don't know. A commenter says to OP, you are totally allowed to be pissed off and totally get it. It's one of those that some would find funny and some wouldn't. The planner clearly didn't read you well enough and neither did your wife. However, at some point you need to move on. Being pissed off about it all the time isn't going to solve anything and could end up driving your missus away. So, what do you want to happen? She's apologized, you have vented, and now? Opie says, I don't know. I think this is why I get so mad about it. I don't know what can be done to take away that feeling of taking off the blindfold, seeing him instead of her, everyone breaking out laughing at me, looking up to see her laughing at me, realizing I was the butt of the joke and everyone had been laughing at me instead of along with me the whole time. But you're right. What do I want now? I don't know. Maybe there's nothing I want other than to forget about it, and when I think about it, part of me wants to be a good sport and part of me gets so mad I can go either way. I hate it. Another commenter says, my husband played a prank when he took off my garter. He pulled a baby doll out of my dress. I'm an L&D nurse, so it was genuinely funny. It didn't embarrass me and I actually thought it was cute to incorporate him participating in my job. Everyone laughed, but not at me. I'm pretty sure he's not super comfy about being that intimate, taking off garter in front of everyone, so they gave him the diversion he needed. And I mean, it is kind of weird when you think about it. Anyway, pranks shouldn't be used as an excuse to hurt people and then be mad about it. Also, was it her idea or the groomsman? Just wondering if she trusted your friend with what you would find funny. A commenter says, to put it bluntly, the reason you can't get over it is because you felt disrespected at an event that's supposed to honor you and your wife and your union, and your wife was behind it. That's a really bad time to pull a prank, and shame on whoever thought it up and thought that was a good idea. Weddings are not there to humiliate the bride and groom. You need to express to your wife that you felt disrespected in your relationship. You want to feel love and respect from her just like she wants to feel those from you, and you didn't feel either of those things when she made you feel like a joke. Another commenter says, I had a similar thing happen at a baby shower where everyone, including me, was instructed to put a sack over their heads. They were previously told to remove their sacks while I alone kept the sack on my head. When I began to hear snickering and laughter, I took my sack off and realized I was the butt of the joke. I laughed but felt very foolish and quite embarrassed. There's always mean-spirited people who suggest these types of pranks. Absolutely not funny or a happy memory of my baby shower. Not the arsehole. A commenter says, not the arsehole. If you smashed cake in her face for the laughs, what would her reaction have been? These ones are always pretty simple to me, and it's simply that, a prank is only funny if the person being pranked is going to laugh about it too. Otherwise, it just comes across as mean-spirited to me. Surely, his wife or one of the groomsmen should have known whether this was his kind of humor before making him, the sole butt of the joke in front of the entire wedding. And the fact that it's filmed by multiple people with multiple angles as well probably makes it even worse for him. And I don't think, the guests are being malicious or anything like that, but I can understand why he felt humiliated rather than amused in that moment. But it was 2.5 months later that another post appeared and it said, "Hi everyone, this is the wife. If you know us and what this is about, please know we're very embarrassed about this. We took it down, but it's been shared so many times it just keeps trickling on, so I'm writing this for both of us. This is the last thing we want to say about this. My husband deeply regrets some of the language he used. He intended to write anonymously and was letting out unfiltered emotions. Abraham Lincoln said, write an angry letter and tear it up. My husband made the mistake of hitting post assuming this was harmless venting. He regrets it. We've reached out to and are on good terms with everyone involved. Everything is fine. As regards to the wedding, I'm the only one who messed up here. Our planner gave us options. I watched the videos. I thought it was funny. I messed up. This isn't opinion, it's fact. I messed up because it wasn't funny to the only person who mattered to me. I want people to understand both of our perspectives because no one here is an arsehole. What my husband didn't make clear is that he was an absolute sweetheart at the wedding and afterwards. Overall, our honeymoon was amazing, and he didn't mention at all that he only got mad at the end because I was teasing him about it. And I was only teasing him because I had no idea he was upset about it. I could tell I was needling him, but it was meant to be good-natured. Having said all of that, on my own behalf, of course I thought he would think this was funny. He has a great sense of humor. We joke around a lot and always will. This just hit different, and sometimes that happens. I feel like an idiot taking the risk at our wedding. I didn't exactly tell him to get over it. I couldn't talk about it anymore when it was first brought up because I love my husband. I was upset to hear him get angry, probably in large part because he never gets angry like that. Afterwards, we decided to wait to talk about it until we could do so calmly. At the same time, we didn't need him to get over it to move forward. We can't never mention our wedding or anniversary again or live with anger. To the casual eye, it looks like this is a well-received prank in 100 different videos. I thought it would go over well, and so did everyone else. I do now wonder if there are videos of this prank didn't get posted because the husband made clearer he didn't like it. Bottom line, this was unfortunate and completely unnecessary, but you live, you learn, we're doing great, and this has been blown way out of proportion. On the bright side, how many couples can say their weddings were covered by the New York Post? We're happily moving on. My husband says he hopes everyone gets his thank you cards. That's it. Goodbye. So there was a comment on the back of this that the wife added, but she removed it for some reason. It said, I want people to understand both of our perspectives because no one here is an arsehole. I probably would not have liked it if at our wedding my husband had tricked me into getting down on my knees between another man's legs and taken something off his thigh with my mouth while everyone stood around laughing and filming it. I probably would have thought it's tacky and possibly gross depending on who the guy was. I would get trashed for this, but I did not think it would be the same for a guy. Ooh, bloody hell, that comment. And, I don't fully buy the no one is the arsehole part. She says she's the only one who's messed up, but then immediately starts explaining why she thought it was funny, why everyone else thought it funny, and why it got blown out of proportion. To me, you can make a mistake without being malicious and, still be the arsehole in that situation. And then she's admitting herself, she'd probably be upset if the roles were reversed and she'd been tricked into doing something similar with another man. And yes, there's probably regret in there from her, but for me, part of the update just feels like she was taking responsibility with one hand while softening it with the other, right? I don't know, what do you guys make of this situation? Some of the commenters were saying, he's probably being held hostage in the basement with some of that wording in there. But what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts and let's move on to another story. Our next story comes from a throwaway account and it says, me, 27 female, heartbroken after my 26 male boyfriend of 6 years backs out of a planned proposal. My boyfriend and I have been together 6 years as of this August. We live together now for close to 2 years as well. We have had many conversations about marriage, babies, and our future together. This past winter, we had a more serious and strategic conversation about our future than we've had in the past. We decided that we both wanted to get married in late January of 2019. My boyfriend asked me to send him links to rings I was interested in for the engagement. I sent him links by late January of 2018. I of course wasn't expecting a proposal within a few weeks of our conversation. However, I did assume that a proposal would happen within the first 3 months of the year, considering we would need at least 8 months to plan a proper wedding. Fast forward to March 2018, and we have a vacation planned for the last week of March / the first week of April. This trip was very representative of our relationship, as it was mainly hiking and outdoors themed. Maybe I was naive, but I was almost certain he was going to propose at some point during our trip. My friends and family were all expecting a proposal as well. Despite the fact that we had not talked to many people about our plans for marriage, my boyfriend was seemingly the only person that did not notice what a great opportunity our trip was for an engagement. I came home from the trip disappointed. I absolutely understand that he's not expected to read my mind and know that I was expecting a proposal. What hurt is that he seemed like the only person that did not know me well enough to know how important this trip was and how meaningful a proposal would have been. I started to think he wasn't being honest with me about his intentions to get married. For the next week of our trip, we had many thoughtful discussions about what to do. He made it very clear to me that he still wanted to get married this year and that the past few months had gone by so fast he didn't think about planning a proposal in time for our trip. Fast forward to this past weekend, April 20th. He tells me that he has an appointment on Saturday but won't tell me what it's for. I start to assume he is up to something regarding a proposal. Sunday night, he asks me about my rings again and asks me which one I really prefer. At this point, I'm very certain he's looking to buy a ring within the next week. Monday night after work, he has another mysterious appointment. As you might guess, I'm now dead certain a proposal is happening very soon. Come Tuesday night, he's acting funny. He seems sad, distant, and distracted before bed. I ask him what's bothering him, and he finally admits that he's feeling a lot of pressure to propose. He tells me that he was on the phone that morning about to finalize his purchase of a ring, but he gets a bad feeling and backs out. He tells me that he feels like he needs more time, but doesn't say how much time he needs. I'm completely floored. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Hearing that was the last thing I expected to hear from him last week. I feel like he had lied to me this entire year about his seriousness over marriage. I feel like he betrayed my trust and that we are no longer a team. I feel like he's broken my heart from having second thoughts about proposing. At this point in the year, it's almost too late to start planning a wedding for January. So essentially our plans have unraveled completely. I feel lost. I don't know whether or not this is a deal breaker for me. Despite my boyfriend wavering on the proposal, he still strongly claims that he wants to spend his life with me and doesn't want to lose me over this. I'm not sure if this is something I can move past, but I also can't imagine not being with him, despite being hurt so badly. Breaking up isn't something that my brain has even truly considered. I'd really love to hear some advice and opinions on this. I haven't talked to many of my friends about this and I've been really trying to work through it with my boyfriend alone. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. A commenter asked AP, did he elaborate on the bad feeling he got? What did he mean by that? OP says the bad feeling he got was basically being unsure if we had enough discussions based around how we plan to spend our lives together. Someone else asks, I don't think he's being honest with you. After 6 years, he doesn't think you've had enough discussions. I think he's having second thoughts and doesn't know if he wants to marry you at all. Nope responds saying, that's exactly what I thought when he said that too. Yeah, after 6 years of being together, conversations about marriage, living together for a couple of years, and then coming up with the not having enough discussions as the excuse, I can understand why OP's feeling like they're feeling. Like, what more is there to discuss on this? It just kind of felt like someone who's reaching for any reason that pops into their head and can't articulate the real reason. I think the worst part is now you're going to question it. Even if he does propose suddenly, you're still going to be questioning, oh, is he going to back out further down the line now? And look, I get marriage is an absolutely huge thing for many people, and I'm just left with a question afterwards. I wonder what the real reason is. But Feline Byline says, don't get sidetracked with discussions about ring shopping, wedding planning, an elaborate proposal, or etc. It would still be a real proposal without a dramatic production or the perfect setting, or even without a ring. You could still have a happy marriage if the wedding is planned last minute, or if you elope. Talk to him about your relationship, his timeline for marriage and his concerns. Discuss your similarities and differences, your long-term goals and timelines for things like having kids, or not, and buying a home. Maybe go to a few sessions of counseling together. Giltro says, I'm honestly surprised about so many of the comments talking about how much pressure and stress it is to be expected to propose. But it sounds like this isn't about the proposal, but getting married itself. You're in your late 20s and have been together for 6 years. What is he waiting for? What will he learn about you next year that he doesn't know now? Or consider if marriage is something you need. If it is, you're going to have a tough choice to make. Commenter says, I get stressed just reading this. Proposals don't have to be totally spontaneous or unplanned, but this seems like a lot of pressure to produce something which should feel exciting. I can't imagine having both families, friends, and my significant other all expecting a proposal on a timeline. And I'm female if that means anything. I do think it's somewhat worrisome that he got a bad feeling, but my guess is all the pressure has a lot to do with it. Do what you need to do, but I'd consider nixing all plans for an engagement and wedding. At least time-constrained plans. Basically telling your partner you love him, you want to get married, but there's no need for a timeline. Otherwise, every trip, date, or special moment is going to carry an expectation for him, and he knows it. And there was many comments talking about how they felt they was pressured to propose at a particular time by friends, their family, their partners, and how they felt in them particular moments, especially when they was going away and, you know, they was going on a trip together, and it always felt like there was some sort of expectation in the background eating away at them, and it messed with their mind at the same time. Whilst people kept circling back to, 6 years. What's new that he's going to learn about you? But 3 months later, OP came in with their update and says, 3 months later, we've decided to end our relationship. We officially broke up a few weeks ago, and he moved his furniture out of our apartment this week. I received incredibly varied advice from my original post. I took all of it into consideration and let him read the post as well. We tried our very best over the last few months to move past this, but we were not able to. Breaking up seemed like the only option left. To all you that told me he wanted to be with me but didn't want to get married, you were right. I didn't want to believe it, but after months of circular conversations, it came back every time. He just didn't want to get married. He didn't feel like he was ready, and he didn't know when he would be. Basically, I wanted to post an update on this thread because I needed to get it off my chest. I always figured that maybe some of you were in similar situations and you were hoping to eventually hear the outcome. Thank you to everyone who had originally commented on my post. You definitely gave me a lot to think about. And there was a mix of comments after that one. A lot of people just saying, it's better that they break up now and get married and then he grows to resent her. Other people expecting him to find another partner and get married quickly. Seen that before on Reddit, haven't we? Some people asking why she didn't propose to him. Whilst others saying, he messed up initially by dragging this on for so long, but he deserves some credit for listening to his gut and having the courage to say he was unsure about proposing. But what do you guys make of this situation? What do you think of the ending? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. I just wanted to say a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories. Your love, your support, your time, as always, is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for what you do. Absolutely amazing. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows.